day, House Chair Gatine. Oh my, I have no chair. A good day, Acting Chair Haskell. And to all the other honorable members of the Health and Human Services Committee, you know my name is Susan Lamb and that I'm the Executive Director of NASW. I'm here to testify on LD 1348. This bill couldn't be clearer in the legitimacy of its intent. All citizens of Maine have a duty to protect and defend our oldest citizens. They have literally built our state with a lifetime of work. But as legislators, you have an official fiduciary duty to protect and defend these citizens. If our elders have succeeded in acquiring enough assets to take care of themselves and beyond retirement, and this is no small task as we all know, they become vulnerable to exploitation. It is an absolute moral imperative that we reinforce systems that protect them. Elders are more vulnerable to exploitation when they are isolated and when they feel overwhelmed by modern systems. This piece of legislation addresses both of those issues. By providing personal financial and management assistance, this bill ensures that no older person makes a financial decision without being informed. If financial predators know that the parameters of their scheme will also be shared with a fiduciary, they are less likely to strike. Older people need protection from technological vulnerabilities that they may never understand. In addition, by protecting their privately acquired assets, the state of Maine also protects public funds. Otherwise, the private funds end up in the hands of criminals, and the public funds must be found to maintain the older people who have earned the right to live how they want to live. Staying at home, if they want to, is not only their right, it is a much more cost-effective option for our state. I urge you to fully fund this initiative, which is both a moral imperative and a fiscal responsibility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Off to your appointment. We will continue with those in support. And please note, I know we've got a sparse crew here today, but we are an interested crew. There are a number of things going on here in other committees, in Appropriations Committee regarding this budget. There are people who are monitoring and supporting that today, as well as other bills that are being worked in this busy time. So I hope folks will realize that this is not a lack of interest in what's going on in this bill, but simply the matter of what this time of year means. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Jenna Palladino, and I am the Communication Department Intern for AARP Maine, and I'm here today in support of LD 1348. AARP Maine represents more than 230,000 members, 50 plus statewide. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization representing the interests of 50 plus Mainers and their families. Older adults in Maine are the primary target of financial exploitation. In fact, older Americans are robbed of about $3 billion as a result of abuse and exploitation every year. The effects of financial exploitation go beyond the checkbook. It can cause emotional distress, deterioration of physical health, and loss of independence. One way that older Mainers are financially exploited is through a scam that specifically targets grandparents. Perpetrators impersonate a grandchild who claims to be in trouble due to an accident, loss of their wallet, or another personal disaster. The fraudster swears the grandparent to secrecy and then convinces them to send thousands of dollars by wire transfer. This scam has affected thousands of older residents who collectively have lost millions of dollars. The grandparent scam has turned into an epidemic, although it could easily be avoided with the proper knowledge and resources. Last year, Florida, Kansas, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Virginia passed bills to protect their older residents from such abuse and exploitation. It is time for Maine to join these states and protect our older residents right here at home. This bill provides support for the personal financial management assistance programs for seniors and older Mainers. AARP thanks Representative Gatine for his sponsorship of this bill, and we urge the committee to pass LD 1348. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palladino. Are there any questions? Seeing none, others in support? Go ahead. And the guy knows what the on-deck circle is.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Stillman. I live in Auburn. I am a retired petroleum industry consultant, though I still serve as the accountant for my former employer. And for the last 26 years, I've owned and operated a successful craft business called My Comfort Clothes. I also serve as the treasurer for the Society of Southern Maine Craftsmen. I've been volunteering for the Area Agency of Aging Money Minders program in the Lewiston, Auburn area for about a year and a half. My client is a 70-year-old single woman living on Social Security and a small state pension. She has a checking account, savings account, a debit card connected to the checking account, and 2 loans through a local credit union. She had also enrolled in the credit union's Members Advantage program, which offers coverage for any overdraft up to $400 per month. Unfortunately, she was not aware that the credit union charged $25 for every check that was written and overdrawn. So when I was introduced to Ida, she had $350 in overdraft fees and was several $100s overdrawn. She had exhausted her savings account. Her car was parked as she couldn't afford to register it. And in desperation, she called the Area Agency on Aging in Lewiston, Auburn, known as Seniors Plus. Our first meeting, we spent getting acquainted, discussing the financial problems. I learned then that she hadn't kept a check register for about 5 years. What she would do is look on the computer to see what her balance was and figured that's what she had for money. And she wasn't taking into account her automatic deductions or her debit card spending. So we talked about the necessity of keeping a check register, and I explained to her that the debit card was just like writing a check without the paper, so it was really necessary for her to keep track of that. We set up a check register that afternoon, and we also at the time listed all of the regular bills that she paid every month. Her Social Security deposit arrived a few days after my visit, so I returned and we began the process of paying the overdraft fees and covering the overdrawn checks. There was just enough money left to pay her rent, utilities, and the 2 loans that she had. There was nothing left for groceries, medical bills that she owed, or gas. Obviously, she didn't need it because the car was parked, but there was nothing. So we talked about what she could do, and I told her to call the medical offices, explain to them what was happening, and tell them that they would start getting their payments again the following month. But I also told her that she had no money to spend for the rest until her small state pension came in. We talked about what she could do, local food bank, things like this. She wasn't too keen on that, but she understood. She had no money to spend. I promised her if she'd do what I told her to do, that she would be able to register her car soon. And I am so proud of her because she did it. She went that time without spending any money. Her comment to me was, "I'm so sick of pancakes without syrup." She did a great job. But as soon as the Social Security payment was deposited, we repeated the process of paying bills, and at that time she had $400 left over for the rest of the month. And I explained to her, you know, she probably shouldn't spend it all at once, kind of divvy it up so you don't run short at the end of the month. Her car is now registered. She still makes math errors, and every once in a while she forgets to write in a debit card purchase. But to date, she has had no more overdraft fees. And last month, she was able to transfer funds from her checking account to her savings account so she could start building up her savings account again. I see her once a month just to make sure everything is okay. We reconcile her checking account together, correct any math errors, and I've told her repeatedly what a good job she's doing. Before the Money Minders program stepped in, she had no idea. The overdraft fees began just with 1 that first month, but it progressively got worse until it was just overwhelming to her, and she had no idea what to do. Luckily for her, somebody recommended the Area Agency on Aging. I firmly believe without our help that she would have lost her car, her apartment, and her independence. I think she's a terrific example of what this program does for seniors. And I'm ready now to take on another client because she's doing so well. So, on behalf of Ida and all the other Maine citizens like her, I urge this committee to support the funding for the Money Minders program so they can keep their dignity and their independence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stillman. It's a great story to illustrate how the program works. Are there any questions? Representative Burstein, there's a question for you, Ms. Stone, before you leave the
Sorry.
podium. Representative Burstein?
Thank you. Sure. Thank you, Senator. Ms. Stone, can you just go through how you work with the auditors and how you report what goes on to your agency?
Yeah, every month after we reconcile her checking account, I need to send the bank statement with the math and everything that we've done on the back to Seniors Plus. And there's a gentleman there that looks over it, and so it's double checked
So
as
that's
to
the
what
double
I'm
check.
doing. Right. And then they mail it back to her.
Right. And do you set up these appointments on your own?
She and I do, yes. She calls me as soon as she gets her bank statement.
So you must have a great rapport with her.
I do. She's a
Yeah.
really nice lady. We've become friends, and you know, we have several interests in common, and so it's, yeah. She doesn't want me to leave. She wants me to keep coming back. And I will.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you very
welcome.
much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Those in support? Welcome.
Good afternoon, Senator Haskell and board members. My name is Steve Gard, and I'm here to speak in support of LD 1348 regarding financial exploitation, but a little bit different than what you've kind of heard. So I hope I compared that. I'm a retired long-term care administrator of 40 years, and also a retired certified financial planner. That really doesn't mean anything right now, but when I'm working with people, it seems to. I also work with, I'm a volunteer for providing Meals on Wheels, which is kind of a fun thing, but that kind of interacted with what I've been doing. With a gentleman I've been working with who is 79 years old, his name is Ray. He's an elderly gentleman in our area. In the program, when I first met him, we spoke about his situation to find out what his needs were, and I found the following. He owed a lot of money to healthcare providers because of the disease that he had called diabetes. He wasn't taking his medication because he couldn't afford the insulin costs. When taking his blood levels with his strips, he was recording anywhere from 400 to 700, which is very dangerous. The pharmacy where he could buy his insulin every other time, every other month, or when he could afford to, was charging him $400 a month for that insulin. He didn't qualify for Maine care. And I noticed that his legs were suffering from diabetic neuropathy and were beginning to weep. And by the way, he didn't keep his feet up, so that wasn't helpful either. He lives alone, pays rent, and that rent does not include his utilities. He had a truck, 2010, that he was paying $460 a month as a payment. His heating bill for oil was a little over $2,000 per month, and he had to take out a bank loan and make monthly payments to pay that. I was able to work with the ADRC, which is Spectrum Generation's Aging and Disability Resource Counselor, to get him qualified for a Medicare savings plan through the state. He qualified for that financially. He now pays anywhere from $5 to $7 per month for that insulin that he was paying $400. His blood levels are back to normal, which are under 200 for him. Actually, we convinced him to return his truck to the bank, and through their good graces, they were willing to accept it with no further payment. And by the way, his grandson gave him a used car for free. A state agency, Legal Services for the Elderly, no longer assists citizens to recover pension payments. Let me explain that. I'll call him Ray. Ray retired in 1991 after working 26 years for General Dynamics 12 years, and then for 16 years for VIW. He is receiving his pension from the General Dynamics for the first 12 years, but VIW is not paying his pension for that last 16 years, hasn't. Now it's 21 years since then. And nobody seems to want to go up against VIW regarding that issue. So you will see that I put in there that the ACLU has offered to assist in the recovery of the pensions owed to him for working that additional 16 years with VIW. And I'm in the process of writing the detail of the case so that we can present it to ACLU to act to recover his pension. I don't call this exploitation so much as I call this more neglect on VIW's part, because he has a letter that states that from the HR department that they in fact do owe him the money. I believe this citizen would have failed greatly from his diabetes, could have gone into a diabetic coma, would have had to have been transported by ambulance to the acute hospital in the state of Maine, would have had to incur substantial expenses for this hospitalization and future hospitalizations due to his status as being medically indigent. So I strongly urge your support for this bill, and hope that we can help others like that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. You can tell him that this committee hopes that Ray's finances get squared away, and that we send him our best wishes for that to happen. Are there any questions? Representative Hardison.
Thank you. I'm looking for money for this. How about financial planners? Is there an association of financial planners that might want to pass the hat?
There is an association, but again, like the banks and the rest of them, they think that it's a really good program, but they themselves aren't willing to put up the money, and they're resistant to ask their clients to do so. So
okay.
Difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions? I don't have to look very far now. We're a very sparse but robust crowd.
Good afternoon again, Senator Haskell, committee members. My name is Brenda Calanthe. I'm a long-term care ombudsman. And again, I'm really pleased to be here to provide testimony in support of this bill. I've been aware of the program for many years, and I never could understand why we didn't provide state funding for it, because we do know that financial exploitation of elders does occur frequently. It goes unreported much of the time. The fact that the program utilizes volunteers, I think, is a tremendous strength, and there's a value to the work that the volunteers do. I know this because our program utilizes volunteers, and we assign a dollar value to what they contribute. So you can see from hearing from these volunteers, they bring excellent experience, and they can be an advocate for people. I know with my mother, who's 85, it seems like it's relentless with people trying to take money from her, and she was one of those people that got a call saying that her grandson was in jail and that he needed $6,000. And fortunately, she called us and said, "Mom, that's a made-up call." But if she didn't have us, she might have sent money, not knowing. So we think there's a great value in this program, and I just wholeheartedly support it, and I hope that you will as well.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of LD 1348? Those people in support of 1348? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to LD 1348? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak neither for nor against LD 1348? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I will ask if